Hi guys, this is Abi from Gokche Design. Here are the 7 things you need to know about the BlendIf tool in Photoshop. BlendIf blends and masks out part of a layer based on the luminosity or brightness of the pixels. It's a powerful tool because it allows you to blend and mask in one single step. Let's look at it in Photoshop. Here I have 2 layers. An image in the background and a black to white gradient fill in foreground. Click on FX and then select blending options to open the BlendIf tool. From the drop-down, you can choose gray or one of the RGB channels. You also get 4 sliders, 2 for this layer and the remaining 2 for underlying layer. We'll look at them in detail in the following slides. This layer slider only affects the tones in the selected layer. For reference, gray tonal scale runs from 0 to 255, where 0 is black and 255 is white. Let's see what happens when we select the lighter half of the range, that is 128 to 255, in the this layer slider. Pay attention to the black to white gradient in the background while I move the left dark slider from left to right. As you can see, the darker areas in the gradient are being masked out and it's blending with the background image. Notice the range on my this layer slider now shows 128 to 255, which represents the lighter half of the tonal range on the gradient. Hence, only the bottom half of the lighter gradient is now visible. Similarly, if I move the white slider from right to left, the bottom white gradient of my current layer gets masked out. Number 3, you can use the Alt key on Windows or Option key on Mac to split the slider. Why? Well, splitting the slider will allow for smoother masking and it will create a gradual feathered transition. Let's take a look. This time I'm going to leave the dark left slider at 10 and then press and hold the Option key and split the slider in half. Watch what happens to the gradient in the background while I slide the right broken half to 128. As you can see, this time the masking was gradual and you get a nice feathered look. The left range number on this layer now says 10/128, which means anything less than 10 was masked out, and between 10 and 128, the masking was gradual. Number 4, underlying layer slider affects the tones in underlying layers below the selected one. Let's look at an example. This time I have a text layer on top of a wall image. I'm going to select the text layer and then click on FX and then blending options. This time I'm going to drag the dark slider from the underlying layer. This has the effect of the dark areas of the background wall to show through my white text. You can also drag the white slider to the left to capture both the light and dark areas of the wall, so it will give us a paint on wall effect. I also use the Option key to split the sliders so the masking transition is gradual. Number 5, underlying layer slider can be used to apply selective exposure. Let's take a look. In this example, I'm going to apply an exposure adjustments layer to my background image. Let's select a value of 1. I'm also going to create a copy of this adjustment so I can show you the difference with and without BlendIf. Double click on the right side of the layer which says with BlendIf. It's another way of getting to the blending options. This time I'm just going to drag the dark slider to the right in underlying layer. It's going to restrict my exposure to just the highlights in the image. In other words, I don't want the dark areas of my background image to be affected by the exposure adjustment layer. I'm also going to use the Option key to split the slider so the masking effect is gradual between the dark and lighter areas. If I turn the preview on and off, you can see the blend if masking seems to be working as expected. Let's compare the adjustments layer with and without blend if. You'll notice without blend if, the exposure was applied evenly to the whole image. And with blend if, we were selectively able to apply the exposure just to the highlights. I'm also going to change the blending mode to soft light so I can capture some of the texture from the moon and play with opacity and fill to get my highlighting just right. Number 6, blend if with color channels can be used to blend or mask specific colors. Let's look at an example. Here I have a gradient color wheel on top of a transparent background layer. This time I'm going to select red from the blend if dropdown. Watch what happens when I drag the right slider to left. The red area of the color gradient gets masked out, revealing the transparent background layer. Similarly, if I move the dark left slider to right, it masks cyan area of the color wheel, which is the opposite color of red. Last but not the least, number 7, blend if with a specific color can be used to avoid select and mask. Let's look at an example where we replace the sky with a background image. In this example, I have 2 layers. We're going to replace the sky in the foreground with the image in the background. Double click on the empty area next to the sunflower layer to open up blending options. This time I'm going to select blue from the blend if dropdown. Watch what happens when I drag the white slider from right to left. The blue color in foreground gets masked to reveal our background image. I'm also going to use the option key to split the slider so the transition is gradual. As you can see, this saved us all the time we would have spent manually selecting and masking the sunflower. And of course, this method will only work in selective scenarios with relatively straightforward backgrounds. And that's it for now. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Until next time.